Stand by to fall in, Polk County, for the year in review. This is today's veteran. Hello and welcome, and on behalf of everyone at the Polk County Office of Veterans Services, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Brian Lacey, standing in for Tim Kirkhart, and on this installment of today's Veteran, we take a look at the past year's interviews and stories. The Wounded Warrior Amputee Softball Team represents some of our nation's bravest and most determined heroes, soldiers, and veterans. These men have sustained severe injuries resulting in amputation, and through extensive rehabilitation, they have become competitive athletes again, playing against able-bodied teams in exhibition games across the country. For the third year in a row, the Wounded Warrior Amputee Softball Team returned to Lakeland for their annual spring training at Tigertown.
So the Wounded Warrior Amputee Softball Team is a group of veterans. We're 100% veteran organization. We're a nonprofit, and what we do is we gather all of these veterans who have amputations or a loss of limb of some type, whether it's arm, leg, multiple limbs at the same time, and we put them together on a team and we play softball. So our major vehicle to get where we are is through the game of softball. That's our major sport. But what we do actually is so much more than that. Our tagline is serving beyond the uniform, and that's exactly what we do. Our purpose is to give these veterans, first and foremost, the opportunity to be together, to continue that camaraderie that they had when they were serving as active duty military, and to give them a group of people who have the similar disabilities, I guess you could call it. We call them abilities. It's just a little different how we see them, because we acknowledge that it's there. We acknowledge that an amputation is what gives you a place on this team. But really for us, it's about the therapeutic benefits of playing sports, using your amputation, learning from that, on how to modify that ability and to continue playing the sport that they love.
This team is very rare in a lot of ways. First of all, veterans are on it. To serve in the United States military, become a veteran is unique in itself. Then to be missing a limb, you're even in a smaller group. So to be a veteran, to be an amputee, and to be a competitive veteran that plays sports on this team, we all share the camaraderie of when we served in the military. Now we get to do it on the field. And when I see another player make a great play, then I'm pumped up. I'm ready to go out there and make a great play. It really is like, it's an awesome bonding experience here. None of us never quit anything in our lives, and why are we going to start now? And being on this team really shows the drive and will to win, so to speak, that we all have.
Our kids camp is the largest piece of what we do. It takes the most effort, and it gives us the greatest results we could possibly ask for. Our kids camp, we bring in 20 amputee children and show them that you can still play softball. You can continue to play your sports, and we have a proven track record of kids who have grown up with us, literally grown up with us, and are now playing high school baseball and softball. It's incredible, and the amount of effort that goes into it is just, it's worth every ounce of it, because what we do is, it's changing lives. It's changing the kids' lives, it's changing the parents' lives, it's changing the players' lives.
I think one of the coolest things that I've seen in the camp is you get to be a part of their confidence and teach them to be proud of who they are, because it's not their fault. It's not their fault they're a kid. At least with me and my teammates, like, we signed on the dotted line, and we knew, there was a chance. I didn't ever think that was going to happen, but I mean, there's literally a line where you sign that you're insuring your body parts. I didn't even know I was doing it at the time, but I did that, and I consciously did that. I knew the dangers of it. These kids are kids, and they deserve it. They deserve to be kids, and we get to get them. And a lot of times there's been this bubble that's put around them, either by society, their parents, whatever. Obviously their parents love them, but they treat them kind of like they're broken. And we get to pop that bubble and treat them like a kid for a change. And it's a responsibility that I feel in my soul, in my heart, that I can't ever see myself walking away from, because it's made that much of an impact on my life. And I've been able to be a part of 6 camps now, so that's 124 kids. There's an odd number in there just because it's supposed to be 20, but we did one year 24, a little too many kids, but it's always been such an amazing experience, and seeing them grow.
The impact that we have on communities really is to bring positivity and to bring the relationship building that we want to have. We want to continue these relationships. For example, here in Lakeland, we've been coming for the past few years, and I couldn't imagine us having our spring training anywhere else, because this is a relationship that we've built with the Tigers organization, with the fans who are here, and with the people who walk by and maybe see us for the first time, and they say, oh, I can't wait to come back next year and see you guys again. So it really is a major part of what we're doing here.
Us being on the forefront, showing the sacrifices and resiliency of our men and women in the armed forces by playing a game of softball, the crowds come out and support us everywhere we are. Someone in that crowd, has a grandfather that served in World War II, or a person that served in Vietnam. Someone out there broke their leg at one time, felt sorry for themselves, and now they're coming out here seeing these guys and gals play. There's no excuses now. They see it firsthand, and they realize no matter how bad they have it, someone always has it worse. And by seeing us go and play against all the traumatic events we faced in our lifetime, really it's like an awe-inspiring experience for them.
I get a lesson every couple of events we go. There's something that catches me that, if you ever felt bad about yourself, you can come look at this team, and it should give you some uplifting emotions to push through whatever you want, because this team, it's a no-quit attitude. You got guys out here that aren't making excuses for themselves. It gives you this pure sense of the game that sometimes we take for granted. And if I could tell anybody or teach them anything, it'd be perspective, because, again, I think we're coming out here, and from the outside looking in, you got guys who are battered. We got guys who have been mutilated in war, but they're coming in here, they're living their life, they're leading by example. I think that's one of the best things we do, is lead by example. We just go out there and do it.
Vet Catch is a Florida-born organization dedicated to using fishing and boating to focus on physical and mental healing for our disabled veterans. They are committed to restoring a sense of self through positive connections, outdoor adventure, and relieving stress on the open water.
We came up with the idea originally in Fort Bliss, Texas, there where we both were, and we kicked it all off. He came back to Tampa, started everything up here, and then after that, he took a contracting job in Afghanistan. Now, this entire time, I've been there in Fort Bliss and El Paso, so I finally said, we've moved along far enough that somebody has to be here hands-on. We can't keep doing this thing through emails and phone calls. So what we do is we take disabled veterans out on fishing trips in order to deal with physical and mental disabilities. You know, it's therapeutic for people that have any physical injuries, for one, because of all the motor skills and everything that it takes to do it. And then as for anybody with psychological issues, it lowers cortisol levels inside of the brain, which is a chemical that's elevated inside of the mind of someone with PTSD. So just one fishing trip can be something that'll reduce those levels for up to 3 weeks. And so we started with that, and we've been running it now for a couple years that way. But you know, like I said, just now I'm moving here on ground, so now we've expanded more into local meetups where we're bringing veterans together, letting them have that camaraderie together again, hosting events. Yeah, just kind of up and down the coast right now. It's anywhere from, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours south of here to 2-3 hours north is kind of what we've been flexing around, and it's going really well. But our biggest thing is just trying to make an impact in that veteran community where, you know, well, we got our whole 22 a day suicide statistic, 1 active duty, you know, that we're trying to be able to combat. So we have our own push for that. We call it I for You 22, and it's just all about being present, living in the moment that you're in right now, and trying to live life to the most and enjoy it. You know, so instead of dwelling too much on the negative side of things, because you can easily, if as a veteran, when you start looking into what's going on in the United States, we try to look at it from the positive and all the positive things you could be doing, all the type of actions, because nobody's earned their freedoms more than a veteran has. So
we'll talk a little bit more about the events that you've got planned for July, but right now I think the thing that you touched on is the 22 a day, and really what's become an epidemic is the suicides at the Veteran Affairs centers. Talk about the importance of having a program like this, an outlet for veterans to be around each other. If there's one thing that I miss, it's the camaraderie. It's
absolutely.
It's the ability to, you know, we may have not been in the same place at the same time, but you know, we share certain things. We've come from a past, we've come from a belief, we've come from a discipline. Talk to me a little bit about having that outlet.
Well, actually, it was the loss of camaraderie that we talked about that made us come up with the idea of beginning Vet Catch in the first place. And you know, veterans, they learn to attract to one another. If you see a bunch of guys in a crowd, they kind of just magnetically move toward each other. You know, they speak a certain way, walk a certain way. We can smell each other out. And it's something that once they go back, you know, into the civilian population, a lot of times they have issues with trying to be able to relate with people, and just connecting them, veteran, you know, that's kind of the first step of making them comfortable so that they can let their guard down and relax and kind of make way with it. Like with our fishing trips, we always send them out at least as paired up. Nobody goes out just one veteran at a time. It's 2 veterans, so they can each kind of work with each other while they're out there, unless it's one of our larger trips and we go for 10. But it's for a veteran in the suicide epidemic. They're trying to make a statement and lash back against the system, and the thing is, it's difficult as a government with them trying to address veteran suicide. They look at it like, okay, they have the suicide hotline in place and stuff, and they have the doctors there at the VAs. But if you call the suicide hotline and you have an issue, well, the only thing they can really do is send out a police officer. And in most cases, when somebody's having those type of gestures, they're putting it out. We call them a bid, a battle in distress. If somebody comes on to one of the social medias or something and they throw out a bid, you can't just send a police officer to their house. They're going to lie and say nothing's wrong with them, or they're going to brush it under the rug. So working with the other veteran organizations, because there's nonprofits all throughout the country, we've been able to establish basically a whole network to where, determined by what the veteran's issue is, we can steer them in the right direction to get them the help that they need. And I dare to say that it's better than what the VA can give, because there's just so much of it out there that once you dive into that pool, you know, you find all these resources that are just everywhere.
Polk County Veterans Services is here to help current, former, and future service members wade through the intricate and sometimes complicated process of obtaining military benefits. Many of Polk County's nearly 54,000 veterans can take advantage of this free service, which can include providing information about compensation, education and training, home loans, military pension, and survivor benefits, just to mention a few.
Our mission is simple. Our mission is to maximize the veterans' benefits. And I say that because there's plenty of veteran services county offices all over Florida. The difference between our office is when a veteran comes into our office, we take care of the veteran's primary goal, and that is whatever he or she comes in there for. But we take it a notch higher. We take a look at any other benefits that the veteran is entitled to. For instance, if a veteran come in to talk about his knee, he wants an increase on his knee. While we're looking in the system, we'll do an interview with the veteran, and we'll find out that the veteran's probably entitled to other benefits that he or she may be unaware of. And once we find that out, then that's when we go in to maximize their benefits.
Just give us a brief, how many veterans are in Polk County? Approximately?
We have about 60,000 veterans in Polk County.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot of veterans.
Tell us about Polk County Veterans Services as it relates to diversity in the workplace.
Well, as you know, diversity is very important in the workplace. It allows you to bring people from different ages, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and what it does is it creates a employment opportunity to be able to service the entire demographics of Polk County. For instance, we just hired Veteran Services' first female since the conception of Veteran Services, and she's doing great, and we'll have a special on her here in a couple months. Her name is Julianne, by the way, and she's doing exceptionally well. Additionally, I have interviews going on in the next couple days, and I'm looking and hoping to hire a bilingual veteran service officer, and that's very important for our area, especially considering that we take care of a large Hispanic population.
So when a new person comes in, how do you train them? What's the training? Or is that an ongoing something to be updated?
There are some initial training aspects that needs to take place. For instance, the new veteran will need to get accredited. And after he or she is accredited, they will do left seat, right seat with a seasoned veteran service officer, learn all the trade crafts and skills that go along with our job, to include outstanding customer service. And then there's other textbook style things that need to be learned, and processes and procedures. And it's about a 2-year learning curve before someone actually feels very comfortable doing our job. There's a lot of complexities that come with our jobs, a lot of responsibilities as well.
These new people must be smart, because when I started, they said 6 years to be comfortable. And I'm still working on that. Tell me about a new thing called the Polk County Veteran Services newsletter. What's the start of that, and how did it develop, and where is it now?
Well, as you know, the VA constantly changing. Things are changing, policies are changing, and so we have to keep up with that change, obviously. But in order to educate and inform our public, because they're the consumer, we have to let them know what those changes are. We developed the newsletter in an effort to keep the public apprised of all the changes that are involved with the VA, benefits that they are entitled to, changes that may affect their lifestyle, may affect them as veterans, period. And so we developed the newsletter. It's called Pass the Ammunition. And we developed it to inform the public, hey, this is what's going on. And to give you a really good example, the Blue Water Navy. You know, there's been some changes with the Blue Water Navy. For the longest, the VA did not want to accept Blue Water Navy folks as receiving compensation or benefits for Agent Orange exposure. And now that's changed. And now you can come into our office and we can look to see if you were on or served on one of the vessels that were within the 12 nautical mile of Vietnam. And if that's the case, you could potentially be eligible for some benefits. And if you're a Blue Water Navy veteran and no one have told you this or you have not heard of it, you would not know to come in and get those benefits. And so we use that newsletter as a catalyst to get that out to the public and say, hey, you know, if you're a Blue Water Navy veteran, this is news flash. You know, come see if you're entitled to your benefits.
Activated in 1972, the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital is a tertiary care unit classified as a clinical referral level 1 facility, providing a full range of patient care services with state-of-the-art technology as well as education and research. Their environmental management services staff finds a way to give back to veterans that enter and leave the facility.
However, you know what location of your appointment?
I want to make a new appointment.
You want to make a new appointment?
Yeah, go to the front desk, I guess.
Okay, she's going to give you an escort.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome.
Please allow her to do that.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. That is nice.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good.
My job here is housekeeping, environmental management service. That's what we do. But every Friday, we dedicate an hour each day on Fridays to come out and give customer service back to the veteran. Meeting them at their car, giving them a wheelchair to their appointment, escorting them back out the building to their appointment, or see where they need to be escorted to whatever location, and we escort them to that area.
Okay.
How you doing this morning? This gentleman would like to change his appointment.
When we finish here, then we go to the patient rooms, we meet with the patients, see if they're the customer service, make sure that we have good customer service from a housekeeping standpoint. We were representing the hospital as a 5-star facility, and we want to give back as a housekeeper.
Good morning. So you volunteer?
Yes, ma'am. Customer service, service every Friday.
That's wonderful.
You want a radiology, you say? To the right. So how you doing today? Well, it's important because all of us are veterans. I've been in the military now for 22 years. I serve, I'm a retiree. All of my housekeepers are veterans. And so we feel that it's best for us somewhere each year we want to give back in some way. So we come up with this plan this year to give back to the veterans by doing escort service. And that escort service, we're proud of it because it takes that veteran who can't find his appointment through this location, or it gives us that peace of mind that we are just giving back to the veterans that we serve because we're all veterans themselves.
I've got my PhD.
Thank you. Thank you.
About 50 years ago.
Yes, sir. I'm supposed to be on leave today. However, I dedicated this hour and a half to be there with that veteran because it gave me a sense of pleasurement that we're giving back every Friday. And I would not miss this opportunity because it's a chance to at least see the smile on that veteran when he come in, or the smile on the family member going out, or receive the thank you that they know that we're well appreciated. Because our job is going on in this hospital is health care, as far as housekeeping standards, but this is an opportunity to get a little bit more personable to make that veterans care here a lot more welcome.
I get a wheelchair ride. I get a
There
free
you
ride.
go. How are you doing this morning, sir?
All right.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And where are we going today, sir?
I'm going to the lab first.
Going to the lab. Outpatient?
Yeah.
Okay, down the hallway. Okay. Well, you're cold and hot outside, right?
If we meet the veteran at the first line of defense, which is at the point where they get out of their car, and we just give them the smile, the welcome, the thank you, and to let them know that we're here to escort them and to thank them for allowing this hospital to serve them, that does take a lot of stress off of them to know that there was a welcome coming into the hospital. Because they're already stressful to know that once they get into the hospital what they may face. But if we can make the difference at the front of the hospital in the main lobby, then that makes a difference for the receiving their care in the back.
Yes, sir. I mean, just that information on that. So, I did a tour of 1970, 71. First cavalry division. What company? I don't know.
The first part of the stress is to thank the veteran for the opportunity of allowing us to serve them coming into this hospital. Thanking them for their service as well. To let them know why we're here to provide for them, what our purpose is. Also to let them know that we experience what they experience. We know what they're going through, and whatever questions they have that we can answer, we're glad to answer them. But we have a feel that whatever that veteran, the first impression for coming into this hospital goes a long way to his appointment for his health care and returning back to his home safely.
The Veterans and Athletes United VAU Fallen Heroes Memorial is an all-volunteer Veterans 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by combat veterans with disabilities and run by veterans and caring professionals. In May of 2018, they completed their Fallen Heroes Memorial. Here's a look at the American flag, honoring those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Mission Act is dedicated to increasing veterans' access to health care. The Mission Act gives veterans greater access to health care in VA facilities and the community, expands benefits for caregivers, and improves VA's ability to recruit and retrain. What the hell is retrain? Retain. The Mission Act is dedicated to increasing veterans' access to health care. The Mission Act gives veterans greater access to health care in VA facilities and the community, expands benefits for caregivers, and improves the VA's ability to recruit and retain the best medical providers.
So the Mission Act was signed into law June of last year, and there's a lot of components to it, but the main intent of the legislation was to improve veterans' access to care, so allowing them to receive care when and where they need it. That's basically the nooks and crannies of it, and you know, we can go into further detail, but sure, that's basically the basic elements of that legislation.
Now, for those that are looking at it, you know, we always try and get that look from 30,000 feet.
Sure.
But is the Mission Act about privatizing the veterans' health care?
No, not at all. While the Mission Act does increase the veterans' opportunity to receive care within the community, we strongly believe, based on the quality of care and our ability to provide timely access to care to our veterans, that veterans will continue to utilize the VA to receive their care. And I'll just touch on the quality aspect of it. So there's been research done in recent years of how we measure up with the private sector, and we're actually comparable to, in some instances, actually perform better on some indicators as far as healthcare is concerned than the private sector. So veterans realize that, and they recognize that, and that's why they continue to choose us to receive their care. And then the timely access to care component of it as well is we're able to provide same-day access for primary care and mental health care services in some specialty, and you can't find that in the private sector.
Yeah.
I receive my care through the VA, my family receives it through the private sector. They can't get same-day access in the community, and so again, veterans recognize that, and which is why more than 85% of them choose the VA when they're given the option to receive their care in the community. And we recognize the trust they have in us, and we always have room for improvement, but we feel like we can provide the best care to our veterans.
I know that when I first got out in 94-ish, 95, you know, I went through Omaha, I went through Des Moines, and now I'm going through James A. Haley and our local CBOC. And one thing, it evolves.
Sure.
The care constantly, the care that's taken care of each and every veteran, no matter what the time frame you were in.
Sure.
It is just, to me, it's the best.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, we have a unique approach to the way we provide care to our veterans, and we spend a lot of time and effort and resources to continuously improve upon the way we're providing that care.
So how will the Mission Act improve community care then?
So like I said, there are different components of the Mission Act, but I'll focus on what veterans will recognize in their regular interactions. So one, it's the way they utilize the process to receive care within the community. We use a third-party administrator under previous community care providers. When you add a third party, sometimes it can add some convolution and delays, and so we've reduced their responsibilities, and so now veterans will only deal with the VA when they're embarking upon that process to receive care within the community, and they'll experience an overall better process when they go through that. And the second thing is we've expanded the eligibility criteria for veterans to receive care. So under Choice Act, it was that 40-mile, 30-day rule, but now we've reduced that wait time from 30 days to 20 days for primary care and 28 days for specialty care, and moved from the distance of 40 miles to drive time. So if you live further than 30 minutes for your primary care provider, then you'll be eligible for care within the community. And we also enhanced our telehealth capabilities, so veterans can receive care in the comfort of their own home if they want to, and a lot more veterans are utilizing that as well. And then finally, it's the urgent care benefit, which I'm most excited about. So veterans that have non-emergent issues, illnesses or injuries that require immediate attention, they can go to an in-network urgent care facility within their community and get that care on the spot, rather than driving to a VA to get that care. So that's
one of the things that you touched on, the specialty care versus what you would normally get. Explain that a little bit, just more in depth from what you would say you go see your normal doctor, but you have the specialty. Give some examples.
Sure.
Of that, if you would, please.
Primary care, obviously, it's your everyday physician for everyday issues that you may have, ongoing preventative care, and then specialty care. You're looking at podiatry, endocrinology, cardiology, dermatology. So those are some of our specialty care providers, and we have some of them based out of our outpatient clinics, but mostly they're out of our main campus at James A. Haley.
Ultimately, giving the veteran the best care that they can get is the mission of this. Talk about how this will benefit the veterans in the long run.
Sure. So again, it's all about ensuring that veterans have access to the care when and where they need it. So we recognize, obviously, that we think we provide the best care for our veterans, but in some instances it might make more sense for that veteran to receive care within the community based on maybe the frequency of which they need to receive a treatment, rather than drive an hour, let's say 3 times a week to James A. Haley. Maybe it makes more sense for them to drive 5 minutes down the road from their house to receive that high frequency of care that they need, and they'll do that in consultation with their VA provider. So they'll have that discussion. They'll do what makes sense and is in the best interest of the veteran.
Everybody loves a barbecue, but if you're trying to watch your weight, big food spreads may actually induce stress, and that's a problem. We traveled to American Legion Post 8 in Winter Haven and put on a bit of a cooking demonstration. Check it out.
There's just different options, but if you do have wood skewers, you want to soak them so that they don't burn up right away on the grill. So that's it. Pretty simple, different things that you can use. And we're going to have Chelsea assemble some vegetable skewers for us.
Okay.
On the metal?
Whichever one you prefer.
It's fancy, so I'm going to go with that.
So the reason we're doing the vegetable skewers separate is because chicken and shrimp have different cooking temperatures and time. So if you put all your chicken and your shrimp and you just mix everything up and put it all on the same skewer, your shrimp's going to be overcooked and rubbery, your tomatoes are going to be black and falling off, and your chicken might still be raw.
Well, one of the things that we talked about as we were doing some of the prep stuff, with Home Depot being so nice and giving us the grill for this is one of the bigger ones, so you can kind of spread everything out, what you need warm one side. But talk about how easy any of this is to make on the simplest grills or even charcoal.
Yes, so I have a small charcoal grill at home. It's about this big around, and that's what I use just for cooking at home. This is the thing that's nice about propane, is it heats up super fast. I like charcoal. I don't know why. It's just my choice. But this is, like you said, a huge grill, so you can put more on it. Versus a smaller grill, if you've got 1 or 2 or even 3 people, you can just add enough food at a time. But what you don't want to do is overcrowd your grill. So if you pack everything in there so everything is touching, it's going to be too much and it's not going to cook right.
Okay.
It's going to cool the grill down a lot. So you want space for the food, the heat to come up around the food and cook it. And then you want to make sure you turn it and rotate it, or if it's like a piece of chicken, flip it over so that both sides cook evenly.
Now, in prepping the grill, a lot of people will, when they're finished cooking, they'll burn everything off and scrub it for the last time. And then as soon as they start to turn it on, they'll do the same thing. What do you recommend in prepping the grill?
So I always turn the grill on, get it hot. If it's a propane grill, you get it hot, let it kind of burn off anything that would be on there. And then you can start cooking after a couple minutes or so. Same thing at the end. Burn it, turn it up a little bit, get because the char stuff gets stuck on there, so you want to burn that off, and then you get a grill brush and you just scrape it really good and clean. I recommend doing that before before. Like some people will turn the grill off, go eat their food, come back and clean it up, but then you got to turn the grill back on. So just when you're done, take a minute or two, clean it up real good, and then you're good to go.
Any other things we should be aware of when it comes to grilling safety and cleanliness?
Yeah. So I have multiple sets of tongs all over here, and this is one of the common ones I see people. They always use the same set of tongs to put raw meat on, turn it, and then take it off. So it's good to have 2 sets of tongs. So put the raw meat on with one and then take it off with another set. Now, if you've got just vegetables like these skewers, it doesn't matter as much because we're not worried about things like salmonella.
I never even thought of that.
Yeah, so that raw chicken is on those tongs, and then when you're turning stuff, there's a potential to have a foodborne illness. So that's something to be careful of.
All right. So what are we ready to do next?
Those look beauuful. She did one of each. Look at her go.
You want the golf clap? Or just the opera clap? No, high five.
I still got these on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we're actually ready to start putting stuff on the grill. So you can take those off if you like, since you're not handling the raw marinated food anymore. And so what else we have? So we've got a couple different. These are the vegetable skewers, and they've got garlic, thyme, and lemon on them.
Okay. Do we want to pull some of that stuff over here so we can get a...
Yes, we do.
All right.
So let's just get some of this stuff out of our way real quick. Oh, sorry. Slide those down on the bottom. Okay. So that's
a pretty nifty piece of information to have right there. Just, you have a couple tables to move stuff to and from. And,
so this is the nice thing about some grills is they have the side things where you can have like all your equipment and everything.
Okay.
So we've got lots of skewers going on. So we have some chicken, and this is marinated in garlic, lemon juice, thyme, a pinch of olive oil, and a little salt and pepper.
The Sun and Fun Fly-In Inc.'s mission is to preserve and enhance the future of flight through world-class events, inspiring and educating people of all ages. The Fly-In is hosted on a 25-acre campus with 11 buildings dedicated to aerospace and STEM education. Approximately 200,000 guests, exhibitors, volunteers, sponsors, and performers attend yearly. U.S. Special Operations Command hosted the 2019 Department of Defense Warrior Games in Tampa. Approximately 300 wounded, ill, and injured service members and veterans participated in the competition. The athletes represented the United States Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Special Operations Command. Athletes from the UK Armed Services, Australian Defence Force, Canadian Armed Services, Armed Forces of the Netherlands, and Danish Armed Forces also competed.
But the important thing we're doing here today is celebrating our athletes. These are men and women that refuse to allow themselves to be defined by their worst day, but define themselves by their reaction to that day and the resilience and the perseverance and the dedication and the camaraderie and the family. You are going to witness this week a tenacious competition, but you're also going to witness this week camaraderie and family like you've never seen it before. They are all competitors, but they are all now family, and they support each other and they cheer each other on, and that's what you guys are here for, and I'm so glad you're here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Brant Ireland will now pass off the torch to General Clark and Tampa Mayor Jane Castor to light the cauldron. Titus O'Neill also on hand. The 2019 Warrior Games officially have begun.
The most important aspect of the game is that it shows how sport can restore people and not let their injuries define them. So most people that come in the military played sports before they did so. It's kind of a natural fit. And so when they have something happen to them and it changes the way that they are able to use their body, they find a new pathway and they find new vitality, and the competitive juices are still flowing, so it's restorative to be able to play sports. And so we say that we don't want to be defined by our worst day, which is the day that whenever the injury happened to us, but we can go beyond it, and we're using sport as a mechanism to do so.
Back in 2014 when I lost my arm, I sort of got a little depressed. I was a big sports guy growing up and I always had that competition in my life. So when I lost my arm, I thought it was over. And then Air Force Wounded Warrior picked me up and introduced me to adaptive sports in 2015. And ever since then, I gained more competitive spirit, met a lot of new friends, and it just brought that level of competition back in my life.
Well, we've all gone through very similar sort of circumstances. I was embedded with an American team over in Afghanistan, so I worked with them quite closely. They were, so I've got a very good understanding of how the American military works and how some of the other international forces work as well, because I've, through my overseas deployments and services, that's sort of, like I know how these guys work and they know how we work, and there's a mutual understanding, mutual trust and respect for each other. And that's sort of, that gets taken onto the court. While we're playing the game, it's all out the window, and then we finish the game, and we're back into it. We're all mates at the end, mates at the start, mates at the end. So it's an understanding of, we all know what each other's gone through. We've all got our own battles, and we're here supporting each other, suppressing those battles, pushing ourselves in new directions, and giving ourselves a new chapter in our book. So my previous military sort of thing, I sort of closed that chapter off in the book, and now I'm in a new chapter in my life moving forward. So I've sort of closed that off, moving forward, and it just helps me in a positive sort of way.
Well, we had, when it was our turn in the rotation, because there are 5 Warrior Care programs that are recognized by both Congress and the Department of Defense, the 4 traditional services, as everybody knows them, and Special Operations. And Special Operations Command actually is the largest Warrior Care program, as Special Ops has borne a significant burden in the last 18 years of war. So when we had the opportunity to bring the games here, it was our rotation. 2017 is when that decision was made in preparation for 2019. You always do it a couple years out. We knew, our commander discussed it with me, we knew we were bringing it to the right place. We knew we wanted to get the public more in touch with the games. We tried that in Chicago. Chicago is such a big place that it was kind of lost in the clutter. Didn't mean the people didn't care, just meant that it was so much going on, it was hard to draw the public in. We knew this community and this area incredibly supportive of the veteran, of the active duty service member and of their families, and in particular wounded warriors, that this was the right setting to do so. We also wanted to have a format that was more of a co-hosting, a community host with the military host, to try to drive the public into it, for them to be able to see and support these athletes and their families and have a perspective of what they're going through, because they're exemplars of so many more. In this Special Operations program, we have 15,000 wounded, ill, and injured. Our Team SOCOM out here is 40. So they are exemplars, they're standard bearers for a whole lot more wounded, ill, and injured that our communities need to support, because not everything's done in the DoD, not everything can be done by the VA. We have to, within the fabric of our nation, continue to support these people.
I think the amazing thing about these games, especially Warrior Games over any other of these sporting events that are around, is that we really support our brothers and sisters to be able to work around their injuries. I've seen people with one eye doing amazingly. I've seen people with no arms manage to shoot a bow and arrow and just do a fantastic job. This is not about getting to the top of your game. It's about finding a way to adapt and overcome those injuries or those challenges that you've had, and the support to do that is absolutely amazing. So get out and get involved.
Yeah, the healing process is not easy, I can tell you that. It's a long road. The adaptive sports here at Air Force Wounded Warrior, it's just been, they grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me out of that deep, dark hole of depression or anxiety or PTSD, and they brought me here, and I've been 100% ever since. I've had a smile on my face. Yeah, the dark thoughts come back into my head, but then I got sports to think about, air rifle, stuff like that. So it keeps my thoughts off the negative and into the positive.
The fact is that if there's one thing where we can all agree is that the people that have worn the cloth of their nation and gone into harm's way on our behalf deserve our support. Come out and see them, but even more so, come out and meet them and get to know them, and get to know the family members that have had to bear these crises, spouses and children that have had whole changes in their relationships with their service member and in their lifestyle, where a spouse has had to give up a career because now they're a primary caregiver to a very severely injured, wounded warrior. That's the kind of thing that people ought to see and experience and appreciate, and then look for ways to support them. We wanted to set a community model, which we've done. We did so in a very economical way, so we've produced the most affordable games in Warrior game history, which helps the Department of Defense feel better about sustaining it, because obviously cost is always a factor. So that's one piece of it. The public involvement in this game and the fact that the spectating by the public's been the highest we've ever seen is another indicator. That's the success we've had, is that we've pulled the public in ways that we never have before, and that we've been able to do it in a format that will allow the Department of Defense to keep it going.
That's going to do it for this year-end review edition of Today's Veteran. I want to thank you for joining us and the guests that have come on the show over the past year. Now remember, for help and information regarding claims, benefits, and services available to veterans and their families, call the Polk County Veterans Service Office at 863-534-5220 or log on to the Polk County website at polk-county.net. I'm Brian Lacey, sitting in for Tim Kirkhart, and we'll see you next year right here on Today's Veteran.